tighten your lines as we get ready to sail the seven seas on the Political Pirate Podcast. Join Captain Ted Yoho and the salty dog John Martin as they search far and wide for the greatest treasure of all, the truth. From local Florida news to nationwide stories and the globe beyond, we've got it all mapped out. Now here's your hosts, the salty dog John Martin and Captain Ted Yoho.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, featuring yours truly, the old salty dog, John Martin, as your host, and the captain of our ship, as always, Mr. Ted Yoho. Good morning, Ted.
Morning, John. Great to be here. Great to see you. Looking good, and look forward to a great show.
Well, we've got a really breaking story to get with you right now. I'll set it up. We don't have a lot of details yet. But that John Bolton, as you may remember, was, I think, National Security Advisor under Bush or George Bush Jr., and also for a brief period of time in Trump's administration. Well, his house in Maryland, Bethesda, Maryland, and his office in D.C. are currently, as we speak, being raided by the FBI, presumably, I think, to look for classified documents, but we don't really know the details. What are your initial thoughts on that, Ted?
I think this is something that, you go back to the first Trump administration where he had a divide with President Trump there on different sides of several issues. And, John Bolton being a war hawk, and he had published a book. And in that book, there was alleged classified information that he was told not to release. And, that stems to his time in government. And, you've got all that information somewhere. And so this is Trump following up with that, or the Department of Justice, to see how much other classified information he may have in his personal control. And so if this is done legitimately to see, are they leaking government secrets that they shouldn't, that's a good thing. If this is done in retaliation, just a personality, that's not the way that the government should work. And so let's see how this plays out. John Bolton, he was a big critic of the president. I had a lot of respect for him. I read his books. But then he kind of went off a different angle because Trump wasn't listening to him.
Yeah, well, I never actually liked the dude, but, that's just that's just the way I am. But you mentioned about the classified documents, but keep in mind that not only did he have access, obviously, during Bush and Trump's first term, but up until President Trump took over in his second term, Bolton still had security clearance, and he had a subsidized security detail, all of which Donald Trump stripped pretty quick. I don't know if it was day one, but pretty quick after he got back in the White House. So there's no telling what he might have had in addition to what you were talking about.
There really is, and especially under the Biden administration. I mean, that was just such a open door policy to anybody. I mean, there was no checks and balances on the Biden administration, and so people kind of did what they wanted to do. And to have security clearance, somebody like John Bolton, is one thing, but to have it for Clapper and Brenner and all these other people that were legitimately had treasonous acts against the United States of America, not just a person, Donald Trump, but against our Constitution. These people did treason. This was high treason. And Tulsi Gabbard is doing exactly what needs to be done to go after these people. I mean, again, you've heard me talk about that documentary, The Plot Against the President. That outlines the soft coup that Obama, Clapper, Comey, Brenner, all were going after Trump. And that was a soft coup to overthrow the government of a duly elected person. Those people need to be gone after, and I hope justice is served there. And that is not a political witch hunt. That is going after people that were trying to take this country down and destroy our constitutional republic.
Yeah, well, the thing about Bolton, one of the reasons I say I didn't like the guy is because he falls into this category of these kind of establishment, inner circle DC bureaucrat people that basically, presidents come and go, but they seem to be entrenched. And I'm not just saying him, there's a lot of them on both sides of the aisle that think that they are the story. We saw that a lot under President Trump in his first term, that kind of, deep state type stuff. And he's always been one of those types of people to me. And that's, I don't particularly care for that. But the other thing about it is that, Cash Patel, actually, I think it was on his X platform, posted just before they raided it. He literally posted, "No one is above the law." And I think just to that sentence. And then, of course, they went right in. So I'm assuming that was there. And you mentioned retaliation. See, and I agree that that's a potential problem. But I do believe that Trump and his administration and Patel and all are smarter than that, because they know that it's going to be spun that way no matter what happens. So I would think they have their ducks in a row, but more will be revealed.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And, I like John Bolton when I got to talk to him and some of his things that he wrote about in his book. But I agree with you 100%. He's part of the deep state, and he should go. And there's no reason for him to have classified information anymore or clearance. And I think this is a good thing. And you know what may come out of this? This may lead into the investigation that they're doing, that Tulsi Gabbard started. And there may be information that he's got that ties into that. And this is all a good thing, because this is really putting Drano into the clogged lines of Washington, D.C. bureaucracy and the swamp to clean out the drains and get those people out of there. There's no reason he needs to linger around there. I agree with you.
Yeah, and one thing about it, Ted, I call it pucker time. There's quite a few people up there that their old buttholes are puckering down right now, because this is a shot across the bow right there.
There really is. There's another good thing going on today. I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's a very important thing people need to listen to. And that's the Federal Reserve meeting out in Montana in Jackson Hole, where Jerome Powell,
I think, actually, right?
Yeah, our infamous leader of the Federal Reserve, that guy needs to go. I mean, I told you when I talked to him before that he said, "Oh, we don't have to worry about our inflation and that we can pay off our debt." And I mean, that guy was just clueless. He needs to go, and they should announce a rate change. And if he doesn't, that's more reason for him to go. The interest rates need to come down.
Yeah, well, a side story to that, and her name escapes me in a moment, but one of Biden's, I believe, appointees is now under criminal investigation on the Federal Reserve Board for mortgage fraud. Seems to be a lot of Democrats seem to be doing that.
A lot of them. I can't believe that. But you look at somebody that is entrusted to run our banking system for the United States government. I don't like the Federal Reserve. I think the federal government ought to be in charge of that. But when it's in private hands and you have a board of governor, this lady out of Atlanta, and if these allegations are true, she needs to go, because if she'll cheat on her own stuff, she's going to do whatever she can for her own benefit, not for the American people. And I hope they find out, soon what's going on. And if she's guilty, throw her out. And it's not a racial thing. It's not a sexist thing. It's like, I want people of good character, good ethics, running the very thing that we entrust them with. And if not, throw them out. And I know we got another story coming up about the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll definitely update this story Monday. We if you're just new to our show, we broadcast live on Monday mornings and Friday mornings. So tune back in on Monday morning, and we will absolutely update you on this story. Well, I want to make a quick announcement before we get into kind of our main story of the day. And that is that there's an event that happens locally here, and it's kind of a regional event called Black Tie and Blue Jeans. Ronald Reagan Black Tie and Blue. It's a fundraiser for the Republican Party in Alachua County, and it's been going on for years. And I say all that to say that Ted and I, the Political Pirate Podcast, we're going to have a table there and probably a booth. We're still working out some details, and but if you would like tickets to that, I'm going to post. It's September 25th. I will be posting an ad for them on our Facebook site, and we'll be talking about it. But if you're within 50 to 100 miles of Alachua, Florida, which is just a little bit north of Gainesville, I would encourage you to come out there, not only to meet us, but you'll get to meet a bunch of political figures, including Byron Donaldson, who I think is very likely to be the next governor of the state of Florida.
Yeah, we encourage everybody to come out, come by our booth, come by our table, and we look forward to talking to you. We're going to be promoting obviously our podcast, and we want you guys there to enjoy it. But get to know these people that may be your future governor and things like that. There's going to be other guest stars there and or political people, and come on by and say hello and support the party. We've done great strides here in Florida, and this is where a lot of the motivation comes from. We're educating. The motivation will be there, listening to these speakers, and then the activation comes after that. And we've got too much at stake not to be participating and being engaged in local politics.
Well, speaking of education, because we like to educate,
that's a segue for you,
and motivate people. We're going to talk about a local story now, but it made national news, and it has national implications because, these school boards across the nation has been exposed the last several years are just going nuts. And I know I'm painting with a broad brush, but it seems like there are literally problems all over the nation, let alone the blue states, but even in red states like Florida, Ted. And this comes to you from the Gainesville Sun. The state education board puts Alachua County School Board on notice to protect free speech. Now, let me set this up really quick for you, and then, Ted, I'll turn it over to you. This all stems from our local school board. When Hulk Hogan died, the chairman of our local school board actually posted on a Facebook post that essentially she said that good about Hulk Hogan's death, one less MAGA. So that's what started from this. And of course, it created quite the ruckus. And we're going to show you some film about that in just a moment. But what are your initial thoughts on what happened? We talked about it at the time, but what happened, and now they're under investigation, and we'll get into the details of that in just a moment, Ted.
But John, I think this is a very important story, and it does have national ramifications. This is a person that's in charge. She's the chairman. She's in charge of the direction of our school for our kids, all the way from primary school all the way through high school. And this is her speaking her ideologies. And if she says this in public on her own Facebook and all that, and I agree with 100% of free speech that we should protect that. But there's also the responsibility side of the free speech. And this lady just stepped way over bounds here, and what she said needs to be held accountable. And the other thing is, I think it's a reminder of everybody of Alachua County politics. This is July 2025, and she's wearing a COVID mask. For whatever reason, I don't know. People know who she is, so she's not protecting her identity. But the hypocrisy of this is you've got the left yelling at ICE agents to take your mask off. We want to see you, but we've got a school board member that has a mask on. I don't know. I don't understand. But it is Alachua County at its finest.
Well, if you want to know where Alachua County is, it's real simple. Look at one of those red, blue county maps of the state of Florida. And Alachua County is literally like a lake, a blue lake up in the north part. And I describe it this way, Ted. If you want to know what it was like in Gainesville, which is the most dominant part of Alachua County, obviously, Gainesville literally is the San Francisco of the South.
It really is. I get reminded of that when I come into Gainesville. What you can tell is when you hit Alachua County, the condition of the roads, when you get into the Gainesville area, they're terrible. I mean, Putnam County has better roads than that. It's one of the poorest counties in the state. So it's amazing. But it's local politics, folks. And this is what's driving the liberal agenda in north central Florida. And like you said, when you look at the political map, Alachua County stands out as that single island of blue right there in the state.
Yeah, well, all you need to know about those road situation is you know how busy Florida is right now. Alachua County is actually closing paved roads. They closed one right here, the one that goes to Rochelle, locally here. They're closing paved roads because they don't have the money to fix them. When they got the highest gas tax in the state of Florida. Crazy.
They really do. That again is one of the reasons Carolyn and I moved out of Alachua County. It's just mismanaged. And it's interesting to see where the Governor DeSantis's Doge committee what they'll uncover in Alachua County. This is not a political hit. This is just something, it's good management and good oversight. So it's going to be interesting. And I hope the people of Alachua County wake up. It's such a beautiful area. Gainesville's we didn't grow up there, but we moved up there in 1977. Went to vet school there, lived our whole life there until I got out of Congress and we moved over to Putnam County.
I will just say this, Ted. You're in a Willaca and right now in a fort in the Keys. I'm still here, man. I'm still here in Alachua County. I guess I'm undercover research here, although they know exactly who I am.
And on the street.
I'm still here. Well, I tell you what, I think because this is a pretty in-depth story and I don't want to chop it up too much. I think we'll take an early commercial break. I'll let my producer get ahead right there. And then we're going to come back and we're going to play you a snippet from the school board meeting where they actually got in trouble with the state of Florida, and it'll give you a flavor of what we're dealing with here. And keep in mind, no matter where you are in the country, if what's happening here in school is happening in school boards all over the nation, including red states like Florida. So we'll be right back. Go ahead, Ted. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be right back. Please support our sponsors. If you want to be a sponsor, look at the little tagline. It says contact Freddie, and we would love to have you. We'll be right back.
Although the owner of Lewis Oil Company maintains she is 29, Lewis Oil turns 60 years old in June. Chevron would like to recognize the North Florida second-generation family-owned business, celebrating its growth and staying power. Lewis Oil Company maintains significant on-hand supplies, strategically located fuel depots, a delivery fleet, on-site service, fuel card locks, and convenience stores. Lewis Oil Company understands its responsibility in the local economy by providing service and delivery on demand and in crisis. As a first responder for 18 Florida counties and the Southeast from Texas to Virginia, we are proud of this rare accomplishment. Lewis Oil delivers.
This is Ward Scott, and I want to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. The Ward Scott Files premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care.
Meldon Law, the only official injury partner of the Florida Gators.
The Ward Scott Files Gold sponsors are Lewis Oil Company,
Shoot GTR,
On the Spot Dry Cleaners, R&R Construction, and Style Cuts. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, www.wardscottfiles.com, and click on the Advertise Here banner on the right side of the page, or call my friend Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the Ward Scott Files. And remember, if you like the show, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
Ward, that very much surprises me that you've never been tased.
You can't handle the truth!
All bees poop.
A warthog. He's going to come up the steps. Here he comes. Oh my goodness, and he's huge. Hello, boy. Wonder if we can pet him. Hi, boy.
Can we touch him? No, don't.
Help me! Help! Help!
Welcome back to the Three Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, with your host, John Martin, and the captain of our pirate ship, Ted Yoho. Well, ladies and gentlemen, when we went to break, we were talking about an incident that happened here in Alachua County, but it is symbolic of what's happening in school boards across the nation. So I'm about to play you a video. I would encourage people, if you want to watch the whole video, you can see the whole meeting. But this is from the Alachua County School Board meeting roughly a month ago. What happened was that when Hulk Hogan died, the chair of the Alachua County Commission posted on Facebook that it was good that Hulk Hogan died because there was one less MAGA, America Great Again person. And so that created kind of an uproar from some local people. So they went to protest at this meeting. And you're going to see the chair of the school board, as Ted said, all masked up in July. And she wanted to stop and squelch freedom of speech. So let's play this and we'll come right back and talk about it.
Yeah, don't. And you cheered for that. You didn't apologize. That's such backstepping. You're a PhD. Aren't you a highly educated woman that knows the exact meaning behind her words? Aren't you? You know what you said, and you should step down. You're a disgusting, vile human being. Yeah.
Attorney Delaney? Excuse me.
I need to stay to listen to everything else.
The deputy, can I get you?
Get up there and talk.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Wiley. Oh, yeah, get him up out of here.
Yeah. Wait just a second, Casey. I'm going to ask him to move out. Yeah. Sir, I'm going to ask you to be removed from the auditorium.
This is a public space, right?
So what you had there is that gentleman was speaking. Of course, he was opposed to what she said and didn't accept the apology. And let me just give you the political dynamics real quick, Ted, and I'll turn it over to you. The school board has 5 members, elected at-large members, that's nonpartisan, but all of them are Democrat, with one exception. There is a Republican lady on there, but she wasn't elected. She was appointed by Governor DeSantis when another school board member resigned to take a different position. So go ahead, Ted. What are your thoughts on what we saw there?
I think there's several things in this, John. Number one, the mask wearing. I mean, if she's paranoid or got a medical condition where she's prone to getting, compromised immune system, that's one thing. But to wear a mask today in 2025, I think is a little ridiculous. But everybody has their own choices on that. But for this guy, and he comes out and he goes, I'm not a MAGA, strong supporter, but it's her coming out and saying this is just, it's hate speeches. I don't want to hate speech, but it's irresponsible for a leader of the school board. The other thing is the elderly Black woman, which I think is sad, that she gets up and says, this is racism, this is sexism. She's living in the 60s and she's trying to bring out what this guy is saying, which he didn't attack sex. He didn't attack a race. He just said this was not acceptable to be somebody like her with a PhD. And he pointed that out. You're a highly educated person. This is what you're going to teach our kids. And so I think there's several things that come into play there. And these are the things, John, I think the important thing is, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point to where this kind of talk is going on in America? And you look back, I'm sure it's always gone on, but I look back at the Obamanization of America, when Barack Obama came in, that's when the tide started to change, because he was going to fundamentally change America, transform America. This is part of that transformation that started back when he got elected. You look at the DEI, the wokeism, the critical race theory, all these things. This is the culmination of what happened. And then you add in the 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It was chaos. And this is what you get. This is where New York is going. This is where Los Angeles and California already has gone. Chicago's gone this way. And I guess the question I need to ask is the American people or the listeners, How much more do you want of this? This is why elections matter. This is why it's important to see these kind of things and become educated, get activated, motivated, and activated so that we can change this tide, because I don't think anybody out there of rational thought wants this for their communities or for their children, or it doesn't better America. And I think it's a great illustration of what's going on in America, and that's why we need to change it.
Well, while you were talking, of course, you spurred a thought from me, Ted. One of the things I've said before is like, yeah, I wanted Donald Trump to win his second term, back to back, but I don't think he would be the president he is today if it weren't for that gap and that dash, which is Joe Biden, because it woke up people, and it also woke up President Trump to what he was going to have to do. Well, I think the same thing is with these schools, because this is not, we kind of tend to think, oh, this is all new. It's not. What happened was when COVID happened, parents had to see what was actually happening. And that COVID, I don't know if you want to call it a blessing, but one of the blessings, if you want to call it that, of COVID is it actually woke up American people to what was actually going on in their schools, because they had to watch it over their computers and everything else. And this has been a trend for a long time in education.
John, it really has been. And it's a wake-up call of what big government can do. You look at the shutdowns, you look at the restrictions they put on people and on businesses and on churches and on outside events. They didn't want you to have a 4th of July picnic with your family because of the COVID virus. Give me a break. I mean, this is what happens when you get these kind of people in charge. And these kind of people, by what I mean by that, are people that are power hungry, that think they know better than you, and it's big government knows best. These are the people that have created this environment, and that's why the American people said enough. We're not going down this road. And I'm just happy that you're exactly right when you said if Trump didn't have that pause where they were going after him with these crazy lawsuits and all those things, blocking his family from doing business in New York City for 5 years, I think it is, had that excessive fine by Letitia James that just got thrown out. You talk about a weaponization of government. These are the crazy things that happen, again, when you get the socialists that are coming into office. And these things need to be thrown out because it's not an American way of life. It's not the American way.
Absolutely. Well, with this, what happened after all of this, when she asked that guy to leave and all, the lawyer actually later on in the video told her you can't remove that guy, suggested not to, but they were going to anyway. Well, this triggered the Florida State Board of Education on the 20th, just this week, to hold a meeting about it. And they found that they violated this gentleman's free speech rights and that they didn't really have a policy to maintain the free speech rights. So they basically told them that they needed to get, the state told the local school board they needed to get training on it. And if they were found to be in violation, they would withhold funds from them equivalent to the salaries of the school board. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see how that all plays out. And you can argue whether that's sufficient or not, but what are your thoughts on the punishment thus far?
No, I think it is. And I hope they put more pressure and that lady steps down. I would think just the public pressure on her, she should step down. She should resign and maybe take a class in public speech or something. I don't know what it is or what you put on your Facebook. There's a great book out there I'd recommend she reads, because I've read it several times, Hung by the Tongue. You got to be held accountable for what you say.
Well, another trend, and we're going to play a video here from 2 years ago in just a moment that will show you some of this kind of stuff. But the philosophy of the progressive left, which is essentially the leadership of the Democratic Party, is they own your kids. Your kids aren't yours. They belong to the village or whatever that like Hillary.
I'm going to interrupt you there. I need to interrupt you there. People go to the United Nations website. There is a whole thing, a whole section devoted to children. And it says children belong to the world. They're not really yours. And it just says or backs up what you just said, John. When you go and read the rights of children, it'll scare you because it's being dictated by a world organization, the one world government, that the World Economic Forum and all those people tie into, your Klaus Schwabs and Jamie Dimons and all those people. And it'll scare you when you read that. Of course, Agenda 21 is in there too, where the world takes over all lands. And so anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's you make excellent point, but I own your kids. And here's the thing. We all want to focus on, like, you hear people all the time saying, and I don't mean this any disrespect to you, Ted, but they're going to run for Congress, that kind of thing, which I applaud that. I'm glad you did, right? But people don't, think about, well, maybe I should run for city commission or school board. We need to take our school board back. If you want to really change Congress for the long term, change your school boards, because they're the ones impacting your children. And if we don't get back control of our school boards and get them back to the basic fundamentals and teaching America first, really, we're never going to totally change everything. That's where it starts, Ted.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because in this school board meeting, I was watching it. I think it was in Putnam County. Joe Pickens was the speaker. He's stepping down.
The state board was in Putnam County, yes.
He's stepping down as president of St. John's Community College. Done a great job. But in that meeting, they were talking, the leaders of that meeting were talking about, we want our kids taught civics. We want them taught about our traditions. We want them taught about pride in America, our military, why we respect them. Those are the kind of things that I think are so important. And the school board, or the governing body of that, is promoting that. And it's so important to do that nowadays, because we have drifted so far away to the left to where there's articles out there that people between 18 and 28, 63% of them, I think, favor socialism. I think that's a scary thing. And you look at what's going on up in New York, in these other liberal states, they're electing socialists. And that all stems back from 10, 15, 20 years ago, of that change in our educational system, where it focused on not on the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, and teaching those traditions that we've had. It's in this new way of, the coexist and all those things. You can't coexist in a world. And I think, one of the things I sent you about that book, Clash of Civilizations, the new wars aren't going to be based on ideology. It's going to be based on religions and the difference between religions and things like that. And so that's where we're heading. That's where we're at right now. So it's so important to teach our kids right and the way to go in what we believe in, the beliefs of this country and our tradition.
Well, and before we play this next video, let me just tell you that in I don't know if it's the majority, but certainly in many school boards across the country, just to show you how much control they have, it is perfectly legal, acceptable, and pushed that your child, if a woman, a daughter of yours, could have an abortion, basically, or have gender affirming surgery. In other words, they could be castrated if they're a boy, or given hormones without your permission or knowledge, Ted. They can be pushed in that direction, which is just insane to me. No matter how you feel about those issues, the fact that the parents wouldn't be directly involved in that, I can find no justification for that whatsoever.
I can't either. And again, it's the leftist agenda. This is something I argued when I was in Congress about the birth control, that you don't have to have parents' consent. That is a hormone that can disrupt a developing person, an adolescent coming into the teenage years. It can mess up their hormones for the rest of their life. I can't give heartworm medicine out to a dog unless I do a heartworm treatment, a heartworm test. So if we're going to regulate pets that strong, I could lose my license. But we're going to give out medicine to kids without their parents' consent that can mess their hormones up for the rest of their life. It's just crazy. That's how crazy we've gotten as society.
Well, that brings up another point, Ted. And I love the fact that you brought that experience up to you, because I can tell you from my observation, people are more involved in their pets' health care and all of that than they are in their children at school, for sure. Because I guarantee you, someone who brings a pet dog into your thing knows everything about that dog and everything else. They don't question. Am I right, Ted?
You're right. When I was in Congress, I was one of the few. There's only 2.5 veterinarians in Congress, and one of the guys, a good friend of mine, he's a Democrat out of Indiana. He goes, "Why is it that I know the name of my wife's veterinarian, but I don't know the name of her gynecologist?"
That's crazy. Well, we're going to play this video. This is from 2 years ago, and this was at Loudoun County, I think, in Virginia, where it's kind of been the epicenter of all this reactionary school board stuff. But this man was arrested and taken out of there. Now, understand this, because it doesn't really come out in the video. This gentleman was not there. There was a protest going on in general, but he wasn't there for the protest. He was there because his daughter had been raped by a transgender student in the female bathroom, and there had been nothing done about it. And this kid, not only nothing done, but he was eventually transferred to another school where he did the same thing. And this parent was there to address that to the school board, and they shut the meeting down, and he eventually ended up on the floor and in handcuffs. Let's play this, and then I'll turn it over to you to talk about it, Ted.
And the boy is wrong. God says men and women are united in one, not men and men or women and women. I also think that transgender is wrong too. You are who you are. You cannot change that.
And Ted, before I turn it over to you, I also want people to understand that the media at that time, and still to this day, because I watched some stuff about it just yesterday, are spinning that he was there as a troublemaker and to accost the school board, which was exact opposite. He didn't even know about the protest. But go ahead, Ted. What are your thoughts on all that?
I think this is a strong reminder of how politics really matters. Keep in mind what this guy is there. I mean, what parent, what father, mother, or father, if their child was forced to go to their locker room or restrooms with a transgender, and then they get raped, and they go to a meeting and act civil to the point where the school board shuts them down, like, well, we're not going to do anything about it. I mean, who would not go crazy? I mean, I thought the guy maintained himself, but this is where out of Loudoun County, Merrick Garland sent out that memorandum or that memo to everybody that said, people that speak out at school board meetings, we're going to put them on the domestic terrorist list. That's how bad and how whacked the left has gotten. And again, it's government control. They want to teach you what you can do, what you can't do, and they want to give you what you want, keep you where you're at. I mean, this is a thing that just goes over and over, whether it's a school board, whether it's housing, it's any of this stuff, John. And then you got Zidani up in New York that wants to have rent control and government-run stores, food stores. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, we got another breaking story. We're not going to get too deep into it, but here locally again happens to be from GHS, which is Gainesville High School, at the heart of where I live anyway. There was a student there. His teacher, in front of the entire class, nominated him as most likely to be a dictator and essentially called him a Nazi and everything else. As far as I can tell, the only thing this kid did was he's a member of ROTC and he's a World War II history buff. So in history class, he talked a lot about it. Apparently he had run-ins with his teacher, and the parent basically, complained about it. But the teacher in front of the whole class nominated him to be dictator, most likely to be dictator. And this is under investigation as well. What are your thoughts on that, Ted?
Again, I don't know the full story. If it was done in jest, yeah, probably poor judgment. But if it was done and this was a continual thing where she was badgering this kid, that teacher needs to go away. I mean, we don't need that kind of stuff. We've all been ripped by our coaches and teachers in school. I remember things that happened to me growing up from elementary school on up, where you got made fun of for doing some silly things. But to sit there and hound this kid, if that's what this teacher has done, there's no place for that in today's education.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, people are beginning to get fed up with this. You're seeing it reaction at school boards. Like I say, it kind of really started in Loudoun County. But Oklahoma, just to say what's happening, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this or not, I'm just reporting it. You decide, like they say. But in Oklahoma, they ask certain questions of teachers no matter what, which they should, but now they have another layer of questions. If you're coming from one of these blue states to teach in Oklahoma, they want to know that you're actually America first, not necessarily MAGA, but America talking. You're not bringing in all this woke agenda. What are your thoughts on that, Ted?
I think we're going to see more of that. I think it's a necessary thing. And, these teachers are transferring. Hopefully they're transferring because they want to get out of the situation they're in. But I don't think it's a bad thing to ask those things. I think it does require a second tier of questioning to find out what their ideologies are. Especially K through 12. When you get to the university system, this is where kids start developing their thoughts. And I think it's, I'd have all stuff on the table there where you can question it. And teachers, the whole idea is to open up debate, bring that discussion forward. And if somebody wants to talk about communism or socialism, that's fine. But let's have the debate about Americanism, Western ideologies, and the things that have really created the success in the world. And I think in K through 12, we have no room for that garbage.
Well, Ted, you mentioned what Merrick Garland did in the FBI during Biden's administration. I've actually got that posting that they put up there that essentially talks about terrorist threats. And look at this post right here. It tells you basically that anyone who protests COVID stuff is a potential terrorist. Anyone who defends anything at all about January 6th, because they're always about January 6th. And then it basically talks about people with religious beliefs, church like the Catholic Church, stuff like that. It's in depth, and this particular one doesn't refer to it, but if you read deeper into it, they're talking about school board as well. So if you stand up and question government in any way, shape, or form, according to Merrick Garland and the Progressive Democrats, you are a potential domestic terrorist. Everybody I know could fall into that category almost.
It sure could be. Are they putting that meme up?
Yeah, it's up. It's up now.
It's up right now?
Yeah.
No. I mean, when you read through that and you look at those things, I think it speaks loudly for themselves. And John, you and I have talked about this before. If you go back and do a montage of the news anchors during COVID, your Rachel Maddow, Chris Cuomo, all those people, Don Lemon, who's not there anymore, and neither one of them are. You look at the hatred they were spewing. If you weren't following Fauci's and the government's COVID protocol, you deserve to die. It was hatred. It was going after people that had free will. And again, it's just a reminder of where they would take this country and how we lose our freedoms. And if you give up a little bit of freedom for security, I think it was Thomas Jefferson, you deserve neither, or maybe it was Ben Franklin. A person
it was Thomas Jefferson. Yeah.
People willing to give up a little bit of security for freedom, or freedom for security, deserve neither.
Well, during that COVID time, you may remember that Tucker Carlson on one of his shows had the governor of New Jersey at that time, and because they had closed down churches, they were one of the first to do it. And talked about, isn't that a violation of the First Amendment, freedom of speech and religion and all that? And the New Jersey governor looked right, chuckled when he said that. He went like, well, that's above my pay grade. You know, the governor of a state saying that the Constitution is above his pay grade and laughing about it pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And again, that's why, it's important to get the information. It's important to go to things like Black Tie and Blue Jeans. And I know a lot of people say, well, there's something going on. It's busy. I'm busy. I don't have time. You got to make time for certain things. If not, you're ceding to somebody else's control. So get informed.
Well, the thing that I say all the time, Ted, is we're never going to elect a government better than we the people are. It's not going to happen. And it is really the case when it comes to the school board. If parents don't get involved and hold them to high standards, they're not going to hold themselves to it. They're just not. So you're never going to have a school board better than the parents within that school system.
Well, I go back over the transition I went through. I voted, and I thought I did my civic duty. I voted. I paid my taxes. Government needs to run, do what's right. You assume they're going to do that. But then as you start getting older or wiser, whatever it is, wherever you have that wake up call, you're like, wait a minute, I need to get more engaged in this. And that's what kind of prompted me to run for Congress, a couple things. But that, I just saw what they weren't doing that we thought just took for granted that they were doing. You can't take for granted that your elected officials are going to do what they're supposed to do. And again, get educated, get involved, become passionate about our country and what we have here.
Yeah, well, you got the benefit of meeting people like AOC and all that, but you missed out on Jasmine Crockett, see, because you're not in there anymore.
I might run again just so I can be there.
Hang out with them. Well, if you want to know how bad this could get and what direction, I want to play you a video because we spent a lot of time on this, but this issue is probably the most important issue. Our kids are literally our present and our future. So to me, it's just vitally important. But if you want to know where this could lead, free speech and all that, I'm going to play this video for you. It is from England, and it happened within the past year. This gentleman was arrested in England for he explains to you what he did. Let's play it. It speaks for itself.
And arrested me. Why? Because I'd been talking about my daughter's school on a WhatsApp group. It was the morning of Wednesday, the 29th of January, about 11:45. I was on a Zoom call for a work project, when on my Zoom screen, in the little window where I saw my own face, I realized that 2 police officers were standing behind me. Another 2 police officers were arresting my partner, Rosalind, in front of Francesca, our 3-year-old daughter. They bundled us into the police cars and took us off to custody at Stevenage Police Station, where we remained for the next 12 hours. He arrested me on suspicion of harassment and malicious communications, and it was to do with a dispute with our daughter's primary school, which began...
And I tell you what, Ted, you were kind of talking off the air about this. If you don't think that right there could happen in the United States, then you are just kidding yourself. Because as you mentioned, Ted, it's already happening in so-called free places that are socialistic. Don't even think about communism. But if you don't think that could happen in the United States of America, then you're just not being real.
No, it's already happening. That video you showed in Loudoun County, Merrick Garland coming out, people that question, the school boards and cause a ruckus. That's domestic terrorism. People that didn't follow the COVID rule, domestic terrorists. And so they label people, and it's a very scary situation. And I got to go back to a story I read in the Netherlands where they were going after the farmers. And some of these farms have been in the families over there for 300-400 years. They were telling the farmers how many cows they could have because of climate change and too much methane being produced. And so they are arresting farmers for doing what they've always done. They are preventing them from fertilizing, and you can't grow crops and feed people if you don't have the proper fertilizer, unless everybody's going to grow their own crops, which they're not going to do. And so, again, it's government control and they want to control all resources. They want to control what you do. And this is another form of control. They want to control your speech and your attitudes and your ideology.
Yeah, well, we only got about 5 minutes left in the show, and I want to play a video for you. This is changing gears, totally switching. Gavin Newsom, I guess he's feeling a bit punchy right now. Well, Texas passed the redistricting map that they wanted to. I think it's still got to go through Senate and signed by the governor, but that's kind of an automatic. But Gavin Newsom has now he's running for president. He hadn't announced it, but there's no doubt about it. Well, he's trying to really go after Donald Trump, and I guess he's wanting to do the same thing Joe Biden and all said about it. But check out this video of Gavin Newsom, and we'll come back and talk about it real quick.
Election, radical rigging of an election, destroying, vandalizing this democracy, the rule of law. So I'm sorry. I know some people's sensibilities. I respect and appreciate that. But right now, with all due respect, we're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire, and we're going to punch these in the mouth. This is radical rigging of a midterm election. Radical.
Well, Ted, I joke around a lot and everything, and I'm capable of saying every curse word in the book. But I'll tell you this. Certainly when my mama was alive, there's no way in the world I would ever speak that kind of language publicly, and I wouldn't do it today. It's just not me. But these Democrats seem to think that the F-bomb and SOB and all that, I mean, is that not advocating for violence? I mean, what is up with all that?
I think if you go over the years and you look back, that is the signature of the Democrat Party. Remember when they went after Sarah Palin? And they go after people, and they had the death threats against them. You look at Chuck Schumer out in front of the Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court, calling for violence, telling people you need to hold him accountable. And then they give out his address, and people showed up there. Maxine Waters yelling at people, saying, "Get into Trump's administration. If you see his cabinet, get in their face if they're eating out with their family at a restaurant." Matt Gaetz got somebody came up to him and threw a milkshake in his face. And I've had a lot of members of Congress on the right that has happened to. But I don't remember people on the right doing that to the Democrats. I'm sure it happens, but not to this extent. And you look over the last 6 months to a year, John, we've had videos of the members of Congress on the Democrat side getting up using the F-bomb. They're going to beat somebody up. They're going to do this. They're espousing violence. And then you get a knucklehead like Gavin Newsom that wants to be president. Give me a break. Maybe he'll bring in Tim Walz as his vice president again. That worked out real well.
Yeah, there you go.
It shows again, and I know Trump throws some vitriol out there and says some things like that, but he's not talking about physically attacking them and punching them in the face. I mean, I've never heard him say that.
Yeah, never heard him say anything.
Yeah,
like
we need to step up the decorum and the integrity of our elected officials. And I say that as a person that was in the news with AOC and things that I did not say to her that got blown out of proportion. But I still stand by we should not be like this in public.
Absolutely. Well,
my mama would have whooped our rear end.
No, my mom would come up out the grave if that's possible and get me today, man. She was a hair puller, Ted. She'd snatch me. Man. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But you mentioned, and I want to give our producer a heads up. You mentioned Tim Walz. So we're about out of time. So we're going to skip all the way down.
I did that just for you as a segue.
I know. We're going to skip all. I appreciate that, man. That's why you're the captain of the ship, man. And I just kind of steer it.
Got to steer you.
But anyway, our meme of the week. That's a segment we started here on, and I'll post this on our Facebook sites as well. But the meme of the week, because the NFL is about to start, is none other than Tampon Tim. He's got a new job, Ted. Minnesota cheerleader. You know, he can join the other two male cheerleaders up there, man. Any comments on that, Ted?
I'm going to stay out of this. That's the way society is today. And if they want to have male cheerleaders, I mean, we had them in college. Go for it, man. But Tim, you don't look good in the dress.
Yeah, but even though that's a meme and Photoshop, I believe he would be that happy to do that, you know. But I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please like what we're doing. Share it far and wide. We're growing all the time. We're going to go to more shows in the not too distant future. And, of course, we'll update you on a lot of these stories Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Ted, any last thoughts before we close?
No, it's been a great week. And come to our website, visit our website, leave some comments. Please consider being a sponsor. We are going to go more shows coming up, and we want this to go national. With your help, we can do that. And we'd love for you to come by Black Tie and Blue Jeans. Go to their website in Alachua County. It's the biggest fundraiser for the Republican Party in North Central Florida, and you're going to have a great time there. Come by and visit us if you do, and we'll have a great time. Other than that, have a great weekend, and I'll see you from the fabulous Florida Keys.
Absolutely. The 25th of September is when that is, and I'll be posting more information as we get closer to it. Well, I'm going fishing, Ted. I know you will probably do some. You could probably do it right out your window right there. But,
pretty much.
Anyway, have yourself a great weekend, everybody. Peace out.
Y'all take care. Have a great week.